And today, God has chosen a delightful vessel to speak to us about anxiety. And as God always does, he chooses someone who has been there, and then he calls them to comfort others with the comfort that they themselves have received. And our guest today is not here to speak about anxiety because, she just went and got herself a PhD in how people should never have anxiety. And she's put them under the microscope, and she's had specimens and analysis. And, she wrote a, advanced, paper on this. That's not how it worked.
No.
She has journeyed this herself and battled anxiety both as a child and as an adult. And God has given her 3 really practical solutions. And I'll say more about this, but in case I forget, it's actually helping me. One of her ideas. I'm doing it myself, and I'm finding it really, really helpful, and something that, maybe I've tried it at different points in my life, but I'm rediscovering it. So I think it's going to be wonderful. Our guest today is Julie Small. She is a graduate of the University of Southern California. She is a California girl, still living there, born and raised. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Communications, and she's a wonderful communicator. She's also a student or graduate at Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry, and she's going to be sharing about a special evening she's hosting where you can receive ministry from her fellow students. And I've been to Bethel twice for these incredible conferences. And I will tell you, the highlight for me was when the students came over and said, "Can we prophesy over you?" And I'm like, yeah, that was, the speakers were great, but those prophetic words, that was actually the highlight. In fact, the second time I went, I was like ditching the speaker so I could go wander the hallway, hoping that one of the students would find me and offer to prophesy me. True story. If you ever go to Bethel, keep this strategy in mind. I was there with a whole group of people. Nobody got prophetic word. I got about 5 of them, and it's because I would always meander out in the hallways looking like I needed a word. So just note to self, keep that in mind as a good strategy. Julie has a heart for children and young mothers, especially those who are struggling, as she has in the past, and maybe once in a while still does, with this issue of anxiety. She's been married for 35 years to her wonderful husband, Dave. They've raised 3 grown sons. They have a daughter-in-law. She loves to walk on the beach with her dog, 7, and she loves painting, and she loves worship, and she has created an entire universe in her brand new best-selling children's book. What a talent she has. But we're so excited to have you here, Julie.
Thank you so much, Donna. I'm so happy to be here. I keep pinching myself that I'm actually here. This time has finally come.
Well, what we're going to do, it's going to be kind of like a 2-part session. The first part I want to talk to those who are here in the room and those who are drawn to this issue of 3 ways to manage anxiety. But the second half of that is that even a child can master. And so we're going to talk to the adults in the room, and then we're going to talk specifically if you have a child in your life that you love. It could be your child, your grandchild, a niece, a nephew, children in your neighborhood, children in your church. If you have a heart at all and you're looking at what's happening with children in our world today, and you want to know not only how can you manage anxiety on your own with these 3 really simple strategies that work, but how you can then impart that to children. We're going to kind of go there in the second half. Does that sound like a really good plan, Julie?
Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah, I like it too. Okay, so we were talking about this even before we went live. What is up? Why is anxiety so, just completely out of control as never before in human history?
Well, I think a big problem is that we live in such a fast-paced world right now. Everything is technology, fast. And we have high achievers and we have high anxiety. It's really tough. At Bethel, one of the pastors said that we have access to more information at our fingertips today in 1 minute even than they did 50 years ago in a whole lifetime. So that's a lot of screens screaming at us, telling us what we should look like, what we should wear, what we should believe, what we should listen to. I mean, they're all kind of vying for our attention. And the thing is, like, look at how wonderful this is that we could do this interview. So it's not all bad. Please understand I don't think that at all, but we are in a technology age and things are really going fast.
I do think that that's a huge part of it. And fear sells. And if it bleeds, it leads. That's what they say in the news. And so we're constantly bombarded. Like even recently, the tragedy in Turkey, and I've actually been there. I've been to the center of that in Cappadocia. It's not Cappadocia. It's the Kurdish Diyarbakir. It's the Kurdish stronghold there. And I'm glad that I know that and that we can pray for them.
Right.
But once upon a time, horrible things happened all over the world, but you didn't know about all of it. Yeah. And you weren't asked to care about all of it. And especially, I think people with a tender heart who, and if we love Jesus and we're called to love people, our hearts are just filled with this love and compassion. And we're constantly hearing of the car accident, house burned down, earthquake, war zone. I mean, we're just constantly hearing all this. And it really does create a lot of anxiety. Now, one thing I remember, pastor, someone giving the advice, maybe don't tune in 24/7 to these news sources that are just, there's nothing you can do about it, but maybe have one ministry that you really trust. And they maybe will notify you, hey, here's something that you can practically do something about. I think that's a very different feeling when you hear about a situation and it touches your heart and you're like, okay, well, I'm hearing about this from a ministry that I trust, so I can join with them in prayer, I can join with them in giving, but you're not putting yourself in a position where you're constantly bombarded with every heartache, every pain. Does that?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. Well, it's not only just the news, but it's social media.
Yes, huge.
Which again, social media can be used in a really positive way, but for these young kids, they're just seeing things and growing up so much faster. I volunteered when I started writing this book. I thought it would be a really good idea to start helping out in the children's department of our little church. And this little 6-year-old girl came up to me a few weeks ago when we were doing a game, like a physical game, learning Bible verses and running and doing a hopscotch and doing all these things. And she said, "Excuse me, I'm quite bored." And I was like, "You're quite bored?" "No, you're not. You're not bored." She wanted to be on an iPad. And there was an example of like, we've got to realize that there's just a lot vying for our kids' time and our attention.
Yeah. And I think some of us can become adrenaline junkies. And if there's quiet, like I'm like by nature, go, do, go. And if there's like 1 minute of quiet and nothing to do, you're like, oh, well, I better quick find something to do. Better quick check my phone, see if somebody needs me. Right. And we're not used to having that prioritizing peace. We don't prioritize peace. So kind of in the introduction, I hinted at this, but you've struggled with anxiety yourself. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
I think I've struggled since I was a little girl. When I was growing up I was born in the 64, and I don't think they were really diagnosing it in kids at that point. You didn't hear much about it. And it took just a real tough thing happening in our family a few years ago for me to have this epiphany that, you know what, I got to look at my own life. I have struggled my whole life. And God, what does that look like? What does that even mean? And I really sensed that he said, well, we're going to write this little children's book, and I'm going to bring healing to you in your heart as we write it together. And you guys, that's a lot of what's happened in my life. I've had a lot of freedom myself from writing the book. And I always think if I could go back and tell that little Julie, okay, breathe, and slow down, and be aware of some of these things that I've figured out now at 58. So that's kind of why I wrote the book, was I thought if I could help some other kids and encourage and inspire some other young parents. I know what it's like to be a parent. I've raised 3 grown sons.
Yeah.
And I think even with my boys, granted, this is a story about a little girl, but even with my boys, you can take the same things, the same practical tools, and use them. Doesn't matter the gender. So, but it would have helped a lot when I was a young mom. It would have helped my anxiety and theirs probably.
Mhm.
So there was a purpose to it.
Yeah, and I think it's great. And by the way, for those of you joining us, I'm Donna Parcho with the Lifestyle Freedom Show, and my guest today is Julie Small, and she is the author of this best-selling book, The Battle of Big Worries. It's a children's book written and illustrated by her. First of all, I want to put everyone's mind at ease. Nothing is for sale today. Usually when you come on Zoom, either someone's trying to make you work or someone's trying to sell you something. And so breathe. Neither of those is happening here. Not only are we not selling you anything, if you stick around, I'm going to tell you about some incredible, an incredible prize that Julie is giving away, and a special event that she's hosting with her. And it's kind of a virtual pajama party with her and other students from the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. And it'll be an evening of prayer and praise and prophecy. And I think it's going to be a tremendous blessing. I think I might just show up myself, because I know how powerful those prayer warriors are. And if you want to get a copy of the book and learn more about Julie's ministry, you can go to her website, bigworries.com. And that's where if you click the link in the book description, it will take you to Amazon, where today, and today only, you can get the Kindle edition of the book for free. But if you have a child in your life that you love and care about, you might want to check out the paperback. Julie really has created an entire world, this incredible, beautiful world that children can step into to find peace and pathways to peace, 3 different pathways to peace. And I guess, before we dive into those pathways, I think we've already hinted at this, but is there, in a nutshell, why is it so much harder to find peace today?
I don't think people have enough margin space.
Yeah.
Young parents.
Yeah.
They're just going all the time, and they don't want the kids to miss out on anything. There's a lot of pressure, and gone are the days of going outside and riding your bike after school. It's just, you come home and you got homework. And I just don't think there's enough space. I think that the kids are more stressed out than ever before. And I think the parents are too. And it's a recipe for chaos.
Yeah, there's no margin in our lives. So without further ado, let's dive in. And as we said, I think in the first half, let's talk about to those who are in the room, how they can apply it to their own lives. And then we're going to switch gears and we'll talk about how they can apply these same principles and help the children in their lives, whether it's their kids, their grandkids, nieces, nephews, neighbors, kids at their church, whatever. So let's just dive in. The 3 strategies that God has given you to manage anxiety and find the way to peace.
Sure. So one is what I call brave breathing. Another is intentional.
Well, let's start with that one.
Start with brave breathing.
Yeah, let's start with it.
So brave breathing is literally deep breaths in, holding it for 4 counts and 4 breaths out. So like counting to 4 out. So it's 4 in, hold it for 4, and out for 4. It literally calms down your central nervous system. It calms down your whole, what I like to call a flesh suit. My kids hate that. They're like, you can't call it a flesh suit. I said, well, but it is. On this side of heaven, these are our bodies. And when our anxiety is high, our hearts start pounding really hard and racing. And we can literally breathe in and out, and it gets us to a different headspace. I mean, it just calms everything down, and it will calm our hearts down. The beating will slow down. It was funny, years ago, I remember watching my mom do this. And I didn't even really realize what she was doing. I realize now, boy, She was trying to calm her heart down. And it's really a wonderful thing. It's being very intentional. And Donna, if it's okay with you, I would love to just read a little excerpt from my book on this, because this really explains it better than me trying to explain it.
And I think people do need to understand that this is physiological.
Yeah.
And I think in the church, we hear, the Eastern religions, the transcendental meditation, the yoga, Eastern religions, they're all into the breathing and the meditation. And so a lot of Christians are scared of it.
Right.
And we've thrown out the baby with the bathwater. But the more scientific research that is done, the more they're discovering how powerful simple things like breathing really is, that it actually takes you from, I guess, the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, whatever. I'm not an expert on it, but it takes you to a whole different system that puts your body in a state of rest. So this isn't just woo woo hype. This is science, scientifically proven to make a difference and to put you in I don't know if you know the science, but I'm sure you know the science better than I do. But it puts you in a completely different system within your body.
Exactly. So in this part of the story, my penguin, Purdy penguin, the little blue feathered penguin, she's been sledding, but she sees that Polly's having a struggle. So she comes to help her, basically, because Polly's anxiety is very high. So Purdy stopped sledding when she noticed Polly's struggle and came to help. Brave girl, take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Now let it out slowly, just like the ocean waves go back and forth. Breathe in and out. You can do it. You're so brave. It's not helping, whined Polly as her heart raced faster. Count and breathe with me, Purdy continued. When you start worrying, do a trick I call brave breathing. Just follow my lead. Okay, so that's an example of reading the book with your child and actually doing it, experiencing it with them at the same time. Like, I would encourage the parents to breathe as much as the kids. And then they can remind each other when, anxiety comes on all of us. So why don't
we do that? Why don't we, do you want to practice, help everyone listening?
Sure. So everybody,
do that for them.
Just close your eyes. And this isn't weird. And whoever keeps texting, you guys, I'm really sorry. There's a caption on my computer, and every time you text, it sends a little ding, and I don't know how to turn it off. So please don't text anymore. Okay, sorry. All right. So if everyone could just quiet yourself, just close your eyes. And I just want you to breathe in a big, deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And we're going to do it one more time.
I did it wrong.
You did it wrong? Okay, that's okay.
I didn't hold it long enough. We're going to try it again.
It's okay. You want to hold it for 4. Okay. Yeah, it's a count of 4. So breathe in for 4, count, hold 4, and blow out 4. So here we go. Ready? Close your eyes. Okay. Breathe in, deep cleansing breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let it out. All the way, all the way, all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you do that a few times, you can't help but bring a peace and a calm to your heart. You just feel better. Your brain gets oxygen. You just realize, okay, I'm right here, right now, and I'm okay. It's okay. Okay, so brave breathing is it's just really important. And I think it's something that's really simple that parents and kids can do together. And as they read the book, they can practice together.
And I think too, even doing it proactively, not waiting until you're obviously we've all heard, it's like one of those cliches that you don't really pay attention to. They say, well, count to 10, before you do anything. Like there really was something to it, right? There was kind of wisdom and things that are passed down. But even proactively taking time in the morning to do the breathing. And I just, if I can share an anecdote, I was at this lovely resort and I was part of actually hosting a Christian event. And so there was a group of Christians at the event. And there was a group of yoga ladies at the event. And the yoga ladies, I'm not talking about yoga, but these ladies were all in with the Eastern mysticism of it and the, woo woo and, what, like there were glowing lights and they were out there. Nevertheless, we were there for a week. And I had to admit that the yoga ladies were in much better shape, much happier, much friendlier, much more at peace, loving life with all their woo woo and blue. It's weird. If you had a conversation with them, I was like,
yeah.
And yet, and I that's always kind of stuck with me, that these principles really work. And so even though the Christians with their great theology on the way to heaven, we're not enjoying the trip. And well, that's not just the yoga ladies.
I thought
and it's just something so simple that we tend to dismiss. I think the reason that they were much more fit, much more calm, much happier, loving life could just be, I'm sure there's much more to it, but I wonder, it's always stuck with me. This was like a decade or more ago. It's always kind of stuck with me. Like, I wonder if it could be something so simple as just taking time every day to breathe and to stretch and to calm down and be at peace. The Bible is filled with admonitions for us to be at peace and be at rest, not physically at rest. I remember God telling me one time, you need to be a soul at rest and a body in motion. And so often I think as Christians, we're the opposite. We're a body at rest. We're sitting in a chair all day on our laptop working, or when we're not on our laptop working, we're on our phone texting, right?
Right.
And we're not a body in motion. And I wonder sometimes if maybe we've overcomplicated some of this, like maybe just simple things, like you're saying, just in the morning.
Yeah.
Right over my breakfast table, it says, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus. Maybe I should just add, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus, and take a minute to just breathe.
Yeah. Well, and I hear you. At one point, I think I was so afraid of it, just anything and everything. And Chris Valentin, one of the pastors at Bethel, says we've made ourselves a powerless church.
That's true.
And that there are things that God always intended his people to have and use and carry on this side of heaven. And we got so freaked out and so afraid that we don't do anything. So then we're not seeing anything happen. And, we serve a God of the miraculous. He is supernatural and he can do the impossible. But if you're so tied up and wound up in worry and anxiety, it's hard to see that.
I would say God only adds his super to our natural. We've got to give him something to work with.
Right.
And then God can add the super to it. And if we can get our hearts at rest and learn to manage the anxiety and really be proactive about this, I think just doing this breathing, even, like the yoga ladies, they every day, they're not going to go into their day until they take a minute to just breathe. And I know it's beyond the scope of what we're going to cover here, but meditation. And I don't have it at the tip of my fingers, but I remembered when I was researching this back in the day for a health program I was teaching, that they did a study of Catholic nuns. And these were nuns who prayed in the Holy Spirit, prayed in tongues.
Right.
And they actually did brain scans of them when they were praying in tongues. And they found that they were stimulating portions of their brain, then we're getting there on number 3, that stimulated creativity.
I love that.
And there's really, I'm not telling everybody, I know that there are different wings of the church and people, whatever that looks like for you to meditate on God's word. Maybe it does mean praying in tongues or whatever that looks like for you, but to get yourself in a place where you're meditating and, just in that peace, maybe in the morning. I remember this woman I watched, and she's like, when she actually came to our Lifestyle Freedom event more than a decade ago. And she had just been fired from her job at a school and was really and I remember she was in one of my classes and she said, I'm going to pray in the Spirit every day for an hour a day. And she did it faithfully for 21 days. Wow. And I have watched her life since that time absolutely skyrocket. I mean, I think she's already a millionaire. If not, she's well on the way to it. And God has given her a global ministry that's taking her all over the world. I mean, she's like a phenom. She's going to have a TV show. Absolutely amazing. And it's been interesting to watch her trajectory. And, she was like this ball of stress and fired. And just taking those 21 days to pray in the Spirit, which again, you're breathing, you're calm, you're in that place of peace. I look at that and I really see that as a turning point in the trajectory of her life. So I think that I think you're really onto something. And we are going to talk about children in the second half, but now I feel like God wants us to stay focused on those who are here with us now, because you have a second key. So that first key is breathe, people. Just breathe. Just meditate. Pray in the Spirit. Turn your brain off. Give it a break. Okay. And then why don't you share number 2?
Number 2 is intentional prayer.
That's good.
And what does that look like? Well, in my story, the penguin gets quiet several times in the story and just gets real still. And Polly doesn't really know what she's doing. She's just kind of watching and observing. And eventually, Polly does figure it out, like, oh, maybe I should quiet my heart and be still too. And what does that look like? Right. And again, I have to say, I really love my little book. It's just,
it is darling.
So this is a section just real quick to show you in this. I just love where, Polly is just Purdy's tried everything with her for the day, and it's just not been super successful, all the different things they've tried. And finally, when Purdy's just pooped, Polly says, Purdy, thank you for your help today. I know how hard you tried. Can we quiet our hearts together and ask the brightest light what to do, like you showed me earlier today? And I use the brightest light, not because I'm trying to change God's name or anything. There's over 200 verses in the Bible that talk about God as light. And I just think for little kids to embrace God and go, the brightest light, that just seems such a tangible thing when they're so innocent and they're so moldable and impressionable. So here we go. She says, Purdy smiles and says, absolutely, brave girl. They closed their eyes. Polly quieted her heart and said in her mind, hello, brightest light. It's me, Polly, Pollyanna Stinkerdoo. Thank you for meeting with me. Can I ask you a question? What do I do when I feel worried and anxious? I don't like the way it makes me feel inside. It hurts my heart. School is starting soon. Will I make any friends? Could you send me a best friend? I'm trying to quiet my heart the way Purdy showed me today. So now I will be quiet and let you talk. Now we're going into the third point, active listening. Well, part 2. I know you have the answers and you're just a whisper away. Polly got very still and waited and waited and waited with Purdy by her side. Sometimes we have to wait and give God time to respond. I've had people say, well, I've tried to pray and ask God for things and I don't hear him. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I haven't had that experience. When I pray, he shows up and he talks to us in lots of different ways. That's something else I really want kids to understand. Sometimes he shows up and he talks to us in pictures. Sometimes he talks to us in just words, sometimes in nature, sometimes, other people, obviously in his word, those are the obvious ones, but he's a creative God, and he shows up in different ways in our minds. And this last part, bubbles and giggles flowed out of Purdy. Polly saw two pictures in her mind as she sat still. The first picture was of a strong, courageous Polly in a cape with a sword in her hand. I love that. We need to be reminded God has made us courageous people. And with God, all things are possible, right? So she sees a picture that she's courageous. And then the second picture is a happy Polly standing in front of an easel painting. So that leads us into the third strategy.
So what was
So
number
you've got
2?
your brain, you've got your
I'm
brain
not- so
breathing,
what was number 2?
intentional prayer,
Okay.
and active listening.
Okay, so
prayer-
number 1 is breathing,
Mhm,
and number 2 is listening and prayer. And I think
right.
I just want to hammer home the point that you were making, that it's praying and actually expecting that you're going to hear from God, and
100%.
watching. Because it's like our brain, we have this part of our brain called the reticular activating system.
Mhm.
And it's like we can't notice everything. So God has given us the reticular activating system so that we know what to notice. And it's like the best example is, you buy a Volvo and suddenly everyone's driving a Volvo. Well, all those Volvos were there. You just never noticed them because your reticular activating system wasn't looking for them. And now it is. So it's that same idea that if you pray about something, then say, okay, I believe that an answer is coming, and I'm going to be watching for it. Today, I'm expecting that an answer is going to come. And you're activating, again, this is, science. You're activating your brain to say, I'm going to be on the alert. I believe that, whatever's worrying you, whatever's, we're talking about 3 ways to manage anxiety.
Right.
And believe that God has an answer. That problem that you're facing right now, maybe you're joining us right now or you're watching the replay and you have this unsolvable problem. You have this situation that you see no answer to. Believe, you know what? God has an answer to this and he's going to show it to me. So I can just chillax and just believe the answer is coming my way. So I love that. I love that. Okay. And then number 3.
Okay, 3 is really finding a creative outlet. Yep. And again, it might be, depending on what your kid's into, it could be dancing, it could be singing, it could
or
be
even for us, even for the adults,
or even for the dog,
right? Even for those who are, in the room, because we're going to talk about what to do with kids in part 2, right? So, but for those who are joining us, who are tuning in, and you're like, I'm looking for 3 ways that I can manage my own anxiety. It's like, put on your own mask first. It's like, this illustration's been done to death, but it works. Before that we can help the children manage their anxiety, we need to deal with our own. We need to deal with our own anxiety first. So, having a creative outlet. So why don't you talk about, why that helps, how that makes a difference, some examples of what, because I'm doing this myself. So I want you to just share some ideas.
Well, the people that know me best know my happy place is in my little paint room. And I go in there and I turn on my worship music and I literally sing and dance and just paint. And there is such a joy that flows into me when I do that. Just expressions of whatever it is. And there's so many different things. Maybe you want to sketch. Maybe you think, oh, painting, that kind of scares me. Well, get a sketch pad and some fun pencils and, start to create. Ask God what he thinks of you. Sit and talk to him. Ask him questions and he'll show you and he'll give you ideas. And, there's so many things that at Bethel, they say we serve a great, big, creative God, so we're required to dream big. And dreaming big is kind of how this whole thing even started for me. So proof in the pudding. It's
so
right
finding
there.
some creative outlet.
Yeah, it could be painting your house. Just be careful. If
That's
you
what I've been doing. That's it. I will admit, I can't. she painted all of these amazing This book is gorgeous. She's created an entire world of peppermint flats, and these are all paintings she's done herself. We're going to say more about that in a minute. But I can't paint like that. But I've just been painting my house, and it's been a creative outlet. Maybe you want to crochet. Maybe you want to sew. Maybe you want to start gardening. Maybe you want to have house plants. My daughter does macrame, but find something creative that you can do. And I think that idea of like doing something with your hands, because we're so much up here, right? Like we're all up in our heads. That I think that there's something to this. Maybe it's even just like walking out in nature and something, but some type of a creative outlet, right?
It could be out, it could be going for a walk and just, picking a beautiful flower and taking it home and just, reveling in how the beauty of it, like slow down. And the creative outlet is just really something fun. I mean, God,
like you could do like flower, flower arranging. A lot of ladies now are getting into like organizing their stuff by color. And you might look at that and think, well, why are you doing that? I really do think it's good for anxiety. First of all, bringing order to your home. Back when I was teaching the 90-day renewal for spirit, soul, and body, we found that there was a direct connection between clutter and weight gain. Because you have all of this stuff around you, and it just is all this chaos. You're like, I can't handle it. I need like a cheeseburger. I can't stand. I gotta have a cookie. And just bringing order and color or something. Just ask God to show you, is there some creative thing? I don't know, maybe you want to get up, you want to dance, you want to paint, you want to something, some type of a creative outlet. I really think it's a wonderful idea. Worship.
Yes.
Worship in a new way.
That's it. Yeah.
That's really creative. You don't want to see me doing my dance. I remember when my Tyranny was in high school, we had a larger house at the time. And she said, well, can I have, we have this extra room. And she said, can I have it? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And she just made it her worship room, and all the walls were filled with like her dreams of what she wanted in life and scripture verses. And she would just go in there and put on her worship music and dance. She was a dancer, and she would just go in there and dance. And I wonder how much good it would do us, coming back to the yoga ladies. What if we were worshiping ladies, and just put on your worship music and get up and dance. And if you want to paint or whatever you want to do, I think that this is really, there's really something to it. So I want to mention that my guest today is Julie Small. She is the author of this brand new best-selling book, The Battle of Big Worries. It's a children's book in the beginning of a series of books on helping children manage their emotions and feelings, so that if you have a child in your life, could be your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, neighbors, kids at your church, your neighborhood, whatever, and you want to help them learn to manage their emotions and feelings, stay tuned to her books. And you can get this one if you go to her website, bigworries.com today only. You can get the Kindle edition of this free. And if you want to get a copy of the paperback, we're going to transition in a minute, and we're going to talk about how you can apply this to the children in your life. How can you take these 3 strategies that we've just talked about that you can use to manage your own anxiety? How can you now use those same strategies? They're so simple that even a child can use them. And this book is a tool that will guide you through the process of helping the children that you love and care about use these exact same simple, effective strategies to manage anxiety. And so if you get a copy of the paperback, you can post that on the internet, on her Facebook group, and you'll be entered to win a beautiful, go look at it at bigworries.com, a beautiful designer purse from Kate Spade. It is the most adorable purse you've ever seen. It is the perfect purse for Easter. Remember, every Easter you got a new when you were a little girl, you got that little purse. That's what it reminds me of. And that's also where you'll find out how you can enter to be part of this virtual pajama party with prayer, praise, and prophecy with Julie and students from the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. So you want to get the information about how you can be part of this special event, and one totally blessed person is going to win that incredible Kate Spade purse. So, and again, that's at bigworries.com. There's also a parent's guide, a free parent's guide that gives you some more tips on how to teach your children these same 3 strategies. So let's shift gears and let's dive in. Julie, how do we teach kids these same 3 strategies? Do you want to walk through them one by one?
Sure. Again, part of it is buy my book
Yep.
and read it to them.
Be honest.
I'm just being honest. Like, let's just cut to the chase. I don't want to give parents that are already stressed out or who have kids that are stressed one more thing to do. But I'll tell you, if you could go back to having story time for those of you who maybe just aren't into that. I know when I was raising my boys, that was one of my favorite times of the day. Was we had a little bookshelf in the hallway and they would run and everybody would choose a book. Everybody got to choose one and we would, read the books to them.
And they love the same book over and over and over and over
and over and over. Yeah, it's amazing. You're like, really, again? But yeah, they do. Yeah, the repetition is, they want to know what's happening. They love it. They get excited. Yeah. I would encourage parents to pay attention when you read the story with the kids. Pay attention to when they get real quiet, or let them ask questions, let them interrupt you. Don't be uptight about, you've only got this much time, I've got to read this book and get you to bed. Like, try yourself to be in the right headspace when you get them in bed or, whatever, and you're sitting down to read, so that you can also have the time and the patience yourself as the adult. But I would really encourage you to, you want me to go through them again? So breathing.
Yeah, they can breathe along with the story.
Yeah, breathe along with the story.
You have them breathe. You can breathe along with them. Yep.
And do it with them and show them that, it's not just for little people. It's for mommy and daddy too.
That's right.
We can all use this. It's positive. And again, I think it's something that God always meant for us to know and realize. And then intentional prayer. It's not hard to talk to God. It really isn't. And I think we get caught up thinking it has to sound a certain way. Yeah. Or it has to be a certain, and yes, we need to have that reverential fear for sure. But he just loves his kids. He wants to encounter us more than we want to encounter him. So, learning about his nature and being intentional with your child about saying, let's quiet our hearts and quieten your heart with them. And okay, let's ask Jesus, let's ask him some questions. And I think a huge piece too is being grateful. There's always something to be grateful for. And we can have a completely different perspective if we choose to. And we are given choices every day. And so we choose to have the perspective that, he's going to show up when we pray. If we're actively listening and we're asking him to come and we're thanking him for coming, he's not going to let us down. That's not the God we serve. And I believe that little kids, they get this. They haven't gone
quicker than we do. Because we've gotten jaded and we've gotten, life has, we've
happened.
Our hearts have been broken. We've had disappointments and, we're a little bit more, jaded a little bit, whereas children, they're just so open. Oh, they're so I love that as they're reading through the story and the little penguin is helping the little girl saying, okay, now let's ask God. Okay. It's just a perfect cue for you and your child to do the same thing and ask God.
Yeah. And even stopping, like you're reading the story, but if they want to talk about it, stop.
And they do, they will.
And they're going to ask you questions and they're going to go, why does the penguin have bubbles coming out of the penguin? And that's a fun thing. Joy bubbles. Bubbles are so much fun. One of my dear friends who's done my hair for almost 20 years, She has two little ones, and one of them is in therapy. And at the end of the therapy, the way they end every session is they blow bubbles. And her little girls who have read my story, they laugh and they say, joy bubbles, just like Pretty Penguin. And I love that. I think if parents can take some of my characters and like use whatever you can use from the story to communicate with your child and to talk about their feelings. I think it's really imperative that kids be able to talk about their feelings right now in this world that we're raising kids in.
Oh,
And
yeah.
feel safe, right?
I would not, I mean, God gives you grace, but I don't think I would want to be raising kids right now. It is hard. I just have so much compassion for these young parents today and young children. So if you're a mom or a grandmom, really do check this out, The Battle of Big Worries. And it's a tool that you can use to equip your child for a lifetime with practical strategies that they will have at the ready to manage anxiety. And even it's preventative. So the third one is the creativity.
Right. And that's so fun to dream with your child.
Yeah.
To read the book and go, okay, well, let's pray. And then be like, what do you think that, how did God make you? What do you think you want to try? I mean, you can find out so many things if you'll just create the space to be with them and hear their hearts. Kids are so funny. I mean, they just are. They're so funny and they're so honest. And
maybe even just like get them, and I'm sure most parents are already doing this, get them creative toys, get them away from these devices and get them old Play-Doh and blocks and coloring books. And I know we're working on a coloring book, and get them paint supplies. I always did so many crafts with my children. Get them doing creative things with their hands, get them outside, naming the birds, I remember we lived in the mountains, one day they came home with a salamander, another day they came home with a snake, and then they found a baby bird. Get them out there in nature and being creative. And it's really, really healing and really powerful. And I just think that if we can equip our children from a very young age with these 3 simple tools, breathe and how to breathe, to expect, to pray and to believe and watch and pray. Right? Pray and watch and pray. Believe God's going to answer you. And then that third, finding some type of creative outlet. And I think that that's something that all of us, children and adults, really need. So any kind of final tips that you want to share? This has been wonderful.
Oh, it has been. Thank you so much for putting this together for me and helping me with this. No, I'm really excited. My prayer is that my story will help provide more of a calm, peaceful home, that the atmosphere will be a little less chaotic. And you'll know as a parent, you've got tools in your back pocket. If your little one's throwing a fit and it's time to go to school, use the tools, breathe yourself, and then get on their level and remind them, okay, I understand how you feel. Polly feels this way sometimes, doesn't she? What did Purdy tell her to do again? Oh yeah, breathe. You want to join me? Let's breathe together for just a minute. It's amazing. Kids just want to be heard. And we had a therapist for when I was raising my kids. We all went to him at one point. And he used to always tell me, Julie, just keep them talking. If you can keep your children talking to you, you're already ahead of so many parents that aren't making that space to do that. And this carries on. I mean, my story is for younger ones, but as they get into the teen years and as they get older, keeping that communication open, it's just huge. It's your best friend, truly.
And some of this stuff is just so much more powerful than we realize. I remember when I was a young mother myself, the neighbor, our next door neighbor, the father died. And the little boy, who was about my younger daughter's age, I was like 10, his father died and he was just completely out of control. So the school said, okay, well, we're going to need to medicate him. And the mother came to me and said, would you consider homeschooling my son? And I said, well, yes. And I think I homeschooled him for a couple of years. And all I did with that little boy was let him be a little boy. I was like, more than cramming, curriculum into his head, he just needed to be a little boy. And we would read aloud, just like you're saying. He would come over. We lived on the side of a mountain. He lived he would climb over the mountain, and the goats and dogs would run up to greet him, and he'd come down the mountain, and we would read aloud. And he loved Jack London. And then he, like I said, he would go outside, and they would run around. We had a big property, and he would run, and he would find a snake, or he would find some bug. And then, okay, we'll draw a picture of it, and then we'll look up. And just that creativity. I wish I'd known about breathing. I didn't know about breathing. We knew about praying, and we knew about kind of creative outlets. And we just gave that little boy creative outlets. And it was absolutely, he didn't need drugs. He needed a creative outlet. He needed to be a little boy and to run and to play. And I think that these 3 strategies are unbelievably powerful for us as adults and for the children in our lives that we love and care about. Again, my guest today has been Julie Small. She's the author of The Battle of Big Worries, best-selling children's book. It's a bestseller in both paperback. It's gorgeous. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. She's such a gifted artist, and she's created this incredible world that you and your children can step into and get practical strategies that I know are going to help the children you love for a lifetime. Get a copy of it at bigworries.com. That's also where you can find out about the virtual pajama party of praise, prayer, and prophecy with Julie and students from the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry. It's where you can enter to win that purse. I want to win that purse, that beautiful Kate Spade Easter purse. It's almost a $500 value. It is stunning purse. And you can get all that information at bigworries.com. Back to you, Tamara.
Well, that was just really got me thinking. I work with CASA individuals, which are kids that are in foster homes. And, anger and frustration is a big deal. And I just bought a copy, and I'm going to probably buy a couple just to share with my kids, my CASA kids, or in other words, it got me thinking it's a great gift idea. Maybe, a mom who's frustrated with their, child and doesn't know how to deal with, and they express anxiety through anger and hitting things and, or whatever. And I just think, your book would be very helpful if you even went to that direction with it, because I think it's, I can't wait to read it. Actually, I have one of my kids visiting me here in Florida. So I just bought it because I'm going to give it and read it to him when he comes. So little Mario is coming here, Donna.
Oh, that little boy, you've changed his life.
I know. All 8 of them are coming to stay.
I'm praying for you.
Be fun. I'm just gonna let it all be messy for
all right.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. But
we should do a session on that sometime, Tamara, about how people can become advocates for children in foster care, because I know that's really your passion. That would be
or actually
to do.
Homeless. I hit the homeless camp. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I just really am happy that you've written this book, and I can't wait for you to get it in as many people's hands as possible. There's so many kids right now that are lost on what to do, and I love what you talked about here today. So thank you. And then I wanted to, and I can't wait to say my picture and put it on your page on Facebook. Now, when you go to Facebook, facebook.com/, and I know there's a link on that page, but what is your page called? Is it Big Worries, or is it
The Battle of Big Worries?
The Battle of Big Worries is what it's called on Facebook. So even if you searched it and want to join Julie's group and stay in the loop on what's going on and helping kids and ourselves, with anxiety, that'd be great. So I'm hoping to win that purse. I know you're not going to.
I want to win the purse. I want to win the purse.
I want the picture.
The cutest purse.
You're going to be the first one with the picture.
That's a nice
one. A head start. No fair.
It is so cute. Like your life could be out of control, and you put that purse on you are together.
Back in touch with being a little girl. No, what I love, and I've said this, and I'm just going to say it one more time. you're going to equip the children that you love with tools that they can use for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. I wish someone would
This
have
is
taught me about
life-changing
breathing.
stuff.
I
This is life-changing.
I was an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And then as far as your event that you're gonna have, can you tell me more what that looks like?
Sure. So we're gonna do a challenge, and so if people buy this and post their picture, they get entered into the deal
Come
to
to
win.
this event, but what's
Right.
the, I mean, I
The
get there
actual
pretty.
event, yeah, the actual event is on March 16th.
Uh-huh,
It's 7:00 p.m. California time.
okay.
And it's going to be a time, you know what I really kind of see doing, I see a time of ministry, a time of prayer and giving encouragement and prophetic words over people.
So just
And
pretty much people will show up and.
you could show up in cute pajamas or a really
Yes.
cute
Oh,
robe.
my
Wear cute
goodness,
pajamas.
One of my girlfriends from Bethel, she lives in Michigan, and I called her about this, and she goes, well, I don't have cute pajamas, but I've got a really pretty robe. And I said, okay, that works.
All right.
And we're gonna take a few of the students that I've gone to school with, and we're gonna
Wow.
partner together and just love on these young people that need some love and prayer, and
Yeah, that's
have a
awesome.
pajama party.
I
That'll
can't
be
wait.
awesome.
This is going to be
All right.
incredible. This is going to be really, really a lot of fun. Julie, you are so talented. I just cannot believe the talent that God has given you. An amazing artist, and what she has done. This is going to save lives of children. This is going to save their life, because when they come into crisis, they're going to have tools that really work. They're going to know, breathe, just breathe. I can go to God. He is going to answer. I am going to hear from him. And I have gifts. I have talents. I've found them. I've discovered them. And that's my place that I go. And I just really, really pray that many, many children are going to be touched, equipped, and even saved because of what you've done here. It's absolutely amazing. And I know that what I've just told you is from the Lord. You're going to save lives from this.
Thank you, Julie, for taking your